Trending on USA Today, an interesting look at the state of marriage in this country.
Love and marriage making headlines, with fewer couples saying I do.
I don't know if anybody really wants anything more deeply anymore.
But what's the real story behind those numbers?
They are afraid. They want to set themselves up for success, but they don't know how.
From learning the right skills to dating in a digital age.
The ability to literally sift through thousands of people at any given moment.
And creating a marriage that lasts.
We are each other's safe harbor.
Join us for this modern take on a traditional vow.
Hello, I'm Deanie Wimmer. College used to be the place where a lot of people got an education and a spouse, but that's changing as the millennial generation postpones marriage. We hit a few cities around the country to find out what's on millennials' minds when it comes to love, dating, and marriage.
It's easy to see in the city of brotherly love. Picture in the Big Apple. And no doubt there is lots of it on BYU's campus.
Getting married, it just kind of like goes with the name of the university.
I want to get married in college because there's a lot more people here than back at home.
But many millennials believe love that lasts is getting harder to find.
People change, so as a result of that, the relationship might break up eventually.
25% of people born between 1980 and 2000 were born to unwed mothers. A third of millennials saw their parents divorce.
My dad's actually been divorced twice, so I really want to find someone who I can call my life partner, which is kind of rare nowadays, which is sad.
Another change? Many millennials see marriage as a capstone rather than a cornerstone in their life.
I would probably envision myself getting married around 27, 28 maybe.
Before me.
Well, I don't know, but we'll see what happens.
Mid-30s probably, not in my 20s.
The median age at first marriage in the U.S. now stands at 27 for women and 29 for men, a historic high. In Utah, it's lower, 23 for women and 25 for men. But even in this marrying state, the rate of marriage is decreasing, and economics could be playing a role.
Do you want to get married one day?
It depends.
What does it depend on?
Money.
Since the worldwide recession of 2008, most of the job recovery in the U.S. has come to those over the age of 40. While the job market has been slow to recover for millennials, technology has exploded.
Now it's like everyone's got a dating app.
And dating has gone digital.
I think it takes away the formalities of dating, but I don't know. It makes it a lot easier if you're a shy guy like myself and you can just kind of send a text.
38% of those who are currently single and looking for a partner have used online dating sites or mobile apps.
I've been using J-Swipe, which is like a Jewish Tinder, and that is the only reason I've really been going on dates this summer.
Despite all the options available online, millennials are less optimistic about their chances for finding the one. But more than 80% want to be married.
Ideally, I'd like to get married while I'm in school before I get too entrenched in a career.
I have a great example of my parents, and they're madly in love still to this day, and I look up to that, and I want to aspire to have something like that.
So how do you find a love that lasts? That's the big question, and there are actually lots of answers. We traveled to relationship classrooms in Utah and Colorado to learn more.
What are the purposes of marriage?
Marriage is the goal for students in this class, but relationship statuses vary.
I'm currently dating someone right now.
I'm very much single.
This is my first real relationship, I'd say.
A big part of this class is taking inventory. It's being willing to look at yourself.
Dr. Jason Carroll has been teaching preparation for marriage classes at BYU for 10 years, and every year asks students what they hope to learn.
It all really comes around their own sense of readiness. How can I do this right?
I hear all the time in church, marriage is so important. It's so important, you've got to find the right person and get married. But then I've always felt this gap of well, how do I tell who the right person is?
Many students think it comes down to simply choosing the right partner.
It's created I see one of the biggest pitfalls in modern dating. When I find a really great relationship, then I'm going to commit to it. The problem is that from everything we know about successful relationships, that's a bit backwards.
Backwards because it's the commitment and investment that creates the great relationship. Carol says you can boil down the last 30 years of scientific research on couples and marriage to one thing.
That there are indeed skills, there are ways of doing a relationship, ways of making a relationship, but sometimes individuals and couples just haven't been taught the skill set.
And you start learning those skills at a very young age.
In the womb, and I say that actually quite seriously. We know that that early child experience primes us. I think if we wait until you've got a serious couple, you're too late.
BYU professor Alan Hawkins wrote the Forever Initiative. It advocates more public policies aimed at ensuring marriages stand the test of time. The first step? Teaching youth and young adults what healthy relationships look like.
And they don't necessarily come particularly naturally.
Dr. Hawkins found a program that begins teaching those skills in grade school.
So the brain always needs to stay the brain.
Janine McKenzie created the Center for Relationship Education in Denver, Colorado in 2003. CRE's curriculum is now taught in 42 states and 8 countries.
My intention was always to fill that gap between body parts and contraception. It was to talk about relationships.
McKenzie is a registered nurse and saw the need for a different approach to sex ed after she visited her son's class.
Kids equate sex with disease because that's all we're talking about. I want to change that paradigm. If you couple sex with committed love, diseases are going to go down. Pregnancies are going to go down. Hearts are going to be full. Marriages are going to take place.
The secular, science-based curriculum meets state education standards, advocates waiting until marriage to have sex, and it's resonating with young people.
I believe that it allowed me to learn more about myself as far as my personality and my character traits. And how I love, I know I fall very fast.
I think a lot of people, even if they're not about sex right now, they're thinking, oh, marriage is just about sex. And it's a lot more than that. It's about the relationship that you have with that person and how beautiful it can be.
Besides just learning relationship skills, Carol and McKenzie both say young people need more opportunity to date, minus the pressures.
So here's the purposes of dating. Teach to it. This new online dating is very prevalent, where they talk and talk and talk, and then they meet up, and now they feel like they know each other.
Gone are the simple, inexpensive, frequent dates that just allowed people to get together on a bit of a one-to-one basis.
While the pathway to marriage is changing drastically among the millennial generation, the end goal hasn't changed.
And as we help them see that proper vision for it, I think they're very drawn to it. And it isn't exclusive to a single faith group or even to religious individuals. That longing for the bonding, the permanence, the connection resonates with most, if not all, of young people.
An important part of dating and marriage is intimacy, but society sends a lot of wrong messages about intimacy and sex.
Men have this pathological or bad sexuality, and women, we inadvertently give the message of, you have no sexuality.
We'll explore sexuality next, and later see what we discovered when we visited an LDS singles ward singled out for its so-called dating crisis.
And the hookup culture is just like, especially coming out of college, I went to U of M, so that was like, I don't know, everyone's just looking for a quick fix, and I don't know if anybody really wants anything more deeply anymore.
With the pervasiveness of sex in the media, it's easy to understand why young adults think all their peers are hooking up. In reality, most millennials want a committed love that leads to marriage. We talked to several experts about the challenges single young adults face as they try to navigate a society that seems sex-crazed.
I think there's a subset that hooks up quite a bit, that gets a lot of attention. You know, the frat parties on college campuses and all these other stereotypes for what's going on. But I think, by and large, millennials are fairly risk-averse.
Prolonging it is wise for human beings. Now, part of the sexual revolution is around all the sexual repression. It was a sort of statement against that, but we've gone like way too far. I mean, and the media exploits that and tries to exploit those anxieties and vulnerabilities to sell you stuff.
We have interesting scripts we're giving to our young people. And so for a lot of our young women, it's this idea that your value is found in your physical attractiveness and your sexiness and your desirability to men. But there is the flip side of that for the young men. And so they feel like they're supposed to have this kind of demeanor and approach, that they're successful with women and that they're attractive and that they're, you know, in some ways a bit of the player.
And that, like, that's part of the adolescent male culture that perhaps we unwittingly reinforce, is that men do detach sex from feelings. And part of being a man is to detach it. That's how you prove your prowess and how cool you are, is that you really want very little from it. It's just about your hedonistic urges. And I think it's absolutely true that men feel bombarded by those pressures. Young men, meaning adolescent boys, feel bombarded by those kinds of pressures.
Part of what we're doing with pornography, sometimes we don't intend this, but the message our young people get is that men have this pathological or bad sexuality, and women, we inadvertently give the message of, you have no sexuality, right? So they sit in these modesty lessons and are told, you know, here's what immodesty does to young men, so safeguard the young men. But all the while, we never talk about their own sexual curiosities.
You know, we don't do a very good job of helping people really say, like, I want sex to be meaningful for me, and how do I create that?
If their message is to live a good life, to live a right life, I have to cut that part off. I have to be completely away. One, it doesn't sound very desirable, and two, it starts to feel pretty impossible, right? And so the idea of saying, no, the message has never been one to live a healthy life when it comes to sexuality, is to cut that part off, to overcome that. No, it's to channel it.
Sexuality is, and it's a potential that's within us. It's a God-given potential. It's one of the greatest potentials that we are blessed with, and yet how we use it matters.
If you'll connect that physical to the emotional, and if you'll connect those two together to the spiritual, you have something very, very different than is offered in the permissive hookup, pornography culture that they're surrounded by. So the whole dating, couple formation, marriage is central.
Dr. Finlayson Fife and Dr. Carroll will offer more clarity on navigating sexuality as part of an upcoming special dating series in the Deseret News. This LDS bishop presides over a singles ward with a lopsided gender ratio. We'll get his take on the so-called dating crisis next. Plus, hear what a man on a mission to cure the world of mediocre love discovered when he began interviewing married couples around the country.
Once I started interviewing these couples, it completely transformed everything that I thought was true about love.
When we got married 30 years ago, we went to Hawaii and we were on our honeymoon, and I saw an older couple walking the beach, and they were on their 50th wedding anniversary, and I asked her what her secret was, and she told me, never fall out of love at the same time. And I've always remembered that, and it's so true. Sometimes I hold him up, sometimes he holds me up. But for the most part, we hold each other up.
Dating can sometimes be a numbers game, and if you're a woman committed to your faith, the numbers can be discouraging. A recent Time article highlighted what the author referred to as a man deficit in the Jewish and LDS faiths, and it focused on this singles ward in Salt Lake City. When we came here, we found something the numbers don't reveal.
Good morning. Good morning. Hi, good.
Almost as soon as the Time article went online, Chris Nielsen heard about it.
My phone just exploded with text messages and with emails on the phone.
Nielsen is the bishop of the Parley 7th Singles Ward, singled out in this article for its lopsided numbers.
I think the demographic thing is the demographics. The numbers are the numbers.
Out of 771 members, 59% are women and 41% are men.
But I think there's a lot more than just pure numbers that plays into the crisis, as he's pointing out.
And in Bishop Nielsen's ward, the numbers are actually starting to even out. Since he became bishop 3 years ago, the number of men in the ward has increased by 10%.
We have more men returning to the church than we have leaving.
They really encourage, I think, people coming back to church, and the missionary effort has been really powerful. I think there's a great spirit of people coming back to church.
And those returning are finding this ward has perhaps a different focus than the singles wards they remember.
When I think of a singles ward, I think of all of the talent and time and energy that can be spent on others and making other lives better.
Service, not marriage, is what this ward focuses on.
I really like the goal of this ward, which is service.
Egan Metcalf and Brent Derricott chair the ward's service committee,
which is currently at about 185 people. About 65 of those people are actually placed within other local wards, so local wards and branches that might be short-staffed.
A big part of their service includes community outreach.
I'll grab you a new cup.
Every Sunday, a group from the ward helps out with the Calvary Baptist Church's Fill the Pot program in Pioneer Park.
And then we have about 9 service teams that once a month do a service project in the community, sometimes with Volunteers of America, sometimes with other organizations.
My goal in life, I just want to love people and I want to serve people. I'm serious, like I mean, I want to get married and have kids, like for sure. But I really want to just keep developing and learning and serving people, loving people.
Relief Society President Mandy Hackett agrees.
I mean, I have a great life being single, and I do want to be married, but at the same time, I'm not waiting for that around. Like I live my life to the fullest, and I think that a lot of the women in our Relief Society and in our wards do live to the fullest.
And Bishop Nielsen says that's the part of the story the Time article missed.
What I got from the Time article is they're focused on all the sadness.
The article also tried to tie all the reasons for the so-called dating crisis just to the uneven numbers.
They're as varied as there are individuals. There's no certain categories of people. That's what I've learned in the last while of working with this great group of people is that it's all individual as to why they're not married.
And even though more and more LDS singles are delaying marriage, they're still getting married.
We kind of focus on who's not getting married. It's kind of fun to see the number of great announcements coming through.
So far, Bishop Nielsen has received more than 230 wedding announcements from members of the ward.
Don't have the world's crashing in on me because I'm not married by a certain date. It's just not true. There'll be different timing for everyone. And blessing to me as a bishop is that everybody's not married before they're 31, or I wouldn't have this opportunity to have right now.
An LDS man in search of love and ultimately marriage set out on a unique journey a few years ago. He interviewed hundreds of couples and marriage experts to find the secrets of a lasting relationship. We sat down with him to find out what he's learned about love, marriage, and commitment.
I was at that age where family members and friends were starting to pressure me into getting married. My goal, my thought process was, how can I increase the likelihood of me being an amazing husband and an amazing father so that when I do get married, I have an awesome relationship.
Welcome to The Lovumentary, a podcast dedicated to finding out the truth behind what creates deeply passionate, connected, lasting love.
Once I started interviewing these couples, it completely transformed everything that I thought was true about love.
I see her as a real bright woman. We play Scrabble every day after lunch.
It does take daily planning, engagement, activity. It's a daily thing.
And I just think the plague of our generation is this romantic idea that you find the right person and everything works out. And that's just not the way, it's just not the truth. It's not the way it happens.
As you're together, you learn and change.
It was like I would grow and then he would grow.
One of the most important things I've learned talking to these couples is there's no such thing as a perfect relationship. One of the couples that I interviewed, the Wigdalls, they were in Boston, and Jim was single till he was like 53. They got married very quickly, and one of the things that he said that really impacted me was that marriage will break you.
Marriage will break you. It will destroy you, and that's a good thing, because it will then put you together in a way that is richer and deeper, and you'll be more alive than you ever thought you could be.
That just really stuck with me, and I think that's true. Probably the most important thing that I've learned about how to create an amazing marriage is that it's a skill that is acquired over time. And most people learn to love through the role models and examples they have access to. Millennials don't have great examples to draw from. We didn't have a very accurate depiction of what love and marriage looks like. And that's kind of what I've dedicated myself to, is learning from these couples who have extraordinary relationships.
One of the things we kind of made firm right from the beginning is that we decided that never use the word divorce. I mean, that wasn't an option.
That it requires continual forgiveness, continual self-growth and examination, that it hurts at times.
Legendary love requires us to look into the life of our partner every day to discern their needs and their wants. It requires us to look inside ourselves every day and ask ourselves the question, who do I need to be the best possible partner? It was a really powerful lesson when I realized that it's not necessarily what you fight about or what comes between you in your marriage, it's how you deal with it that really determines the outcome and the success of your relationship.
Conflict resolution is definitely important in any marriage. Now imagine if your marriage got discussed by people all over the country.
This article didn't come out of a great time in our marriage.
Straight ahead, Seth and Kim Smith discuss why marriage isn't for you, it's for the one you love. Plus, marriage advice from a couple still going strong 70 years after they said I do.
Every society in the history of the world has seen that yin and yang, the masculine and the feminine, are not limited to humans or even just to animals. The God who invented human sexuality also invented the universe. The two fit.
The couple is the starting point, but it's a ripple. It goes round, wide. Whatever I do in my marriage, the circle keeps increasing, it keeps widening until it covers the whole world.
In every context throughout history, where there were strong families, only good came of it. Across societies, or the growth of decline of civilizations, it's the family.
Marriage is beyond us. It's about the society. It is your own project for the world.
You have ravished my heart, my sister, my bride.
One marriage impacts generations. It's an important public good, but working through marital conflict is often difficult. A newlywed wrote an interesting article about what happened when he realized marriage wasn't for him. Now, before you pass judgment, watch this.
It really exploded on the internet.
My intent was not to go viral.
Has become the internet's latest must-read.
My intent was just to share what I had learned with this small group of people.
Marriage isn't for you, and it's not for me, but it's for the person that you marry.
At most, I was thinking, yeah, it'll get maybe 1,000 hits. Maybe. That's a good day. It'll get 1,000 hits. It just went crazy. It was like a wildfire.
A bold concept has received buzz from the Huffington Post, Cosmo Magazine, and impressed wives everywhere.
I was really touched by it, though, because I knew where it had come from, and I knew what our background to it was.
I think it resonated with people because really, in that moment with Kim, that's what I learned, was that this relationship isn't just about me. It's about, this person I've decided to spend my life with. It's about making her happy as well. People would come on and make comments like, you don't know what you're talking about. You've only been married a year and a half. Wait 20 years and then tell us about marriage,
I think that was hard for me because people were asking about marriage and marriage advice and what's your advice to other people. And we had just come out of a real rocky low point. I mean, this article didn't come out of a great time in our marriage.
I just focused on my problems, and that was what was causing the problem in our marriage. But Kim's response was focused on, how can I help you, Seth?
The thing that we had learned, which was, we've got to put each other first and be willing to make sacrifices for each other. And that was one thing that we got a lot of the criticisms is you're giving up your own life and your own identity, and it's not about that. It's about saying, okay, we're equally important to each other. We're there to share great experiences with each other, and we're there to kind of pick each other up when we're down, and that it's a lot more of a journey than a happily ever after, I think, is what we're learning.
I agree with you. I think one of the best things about Kim is she didn't know the extent of my struggle with depression. She didn't know. I mean, I had talked to her about it, and it's one thing to talk about something, and it's another thing to experience it. And, you know, since being married for almost 4 years, she's really had to deal with that head on. And she's been a real hero.
A lot of times I felt lost. Like, how do I help? Like, I love him so much. How do I don't fully understand this. How do I help? And I think the thing that I've learned is love first and then figure out.
She has a lot of confidence in me. And that confidence and that support has helped me achieve things I'd never imagined I would be able to do.
I think the best thing about Seth is he really does live what he writes in his article, actually, is he does put me first a lot of times, and he's very, very quick to both forgive and to listen.
To all who are reading or listening to this article, married, almost married, single, or even the sworn bachelor or bachelorette, I want you to know that marriage isn't for you. No true relationship of love is for you. Love is about the person you love. And paradoxically, the more you truly love that person, the more love you receive.
There's been a lot written about why millennials aren't getting married, but actually that trend is starting to change. Demographer Dr. Sam Sturgeon provided us with insights about the latest marriage trends.
We saw a slight uptick in total marriages over the last couple of years in America, and I think we're going to see that continue to happen as this large cohort of millennials ages into those key marriage years. The majority of children born to millennial women will be born to married women, and that's a big shift among this generation. Only about 10% of children born to women with a college degree are born outside of marriage. For women with less than a college degree, it's closer to 60–70% of their children are born outside of marriage. Another thing that we're seeing is the college-educated millennials, they wait the longest, both to marry and to have their children. I think especially among the college-educated moms, there's kind of the expectation that the relationships are a little more egalitarian. Dads have always changed diapers, but one kind of trend we're starting to see is dads are much more likely to be purchasing diapers than they were in the past. I definitely see a change there among millennials, that there just isn't that stigma associated with going to get professional help or going to get some guidance, because they'll often say, look, we're all broken, and that's okay. And if you need help, go get it. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's the responsible, mature thing to do.
Millennials seek marriages where there's mutual respect for each spouse's dreams and endeavors. One couple married for 70 years says that's a big part of their marriage success.
They just always make a point to talk about how lucky they are to have all of us and how grateful they are. So, I don't know, that's important to me too, I guess, because I see their example.
My grandparents are just cool, because no matter what they do, they're always together.
They were in a botany class or a biology class at the U when they first met.
They were both going to the University of Utah. My mom went to East, my dad went to West.
We had a joint class at the University of Utah. She was a very attractive woman, I want you to know that. and as a male, well, I find attractive women very attractive. Even now, even though there's snow on the roof and bare spots, there's still some fire in the furnace.
Very handsome, gorgeous curly hair, and brown eyes.
What is the secret to your 70-year marriage?
He's a gentleman. He's not a wolf.
A wonderful woman.
I might say that even though we were separated a good deal of the time in the Army.
He was fighting the Korean War, the tail end of World War II.
We always felt the love that we shared.
Be respectful one to another. Recognize that each individual has its rights and that one party cannot be superior over the other party. It has to be a cooperative effort.
Back in 2012, Grandma started having these little mini stroke type things. And one day there was one that's just a little bit bigger than the rest that took her speech away from her for a while.
He has taken over so many of the things that I used to do that I'm amazed at what he does.
And in the time since then, he's always been there to make sure that she's just being cared for, like a sweet old man does.
Well, she's always there. She wakes me up in the morning. She says, it's time to get ready for you coming down here.
And I watch my grandparents, and everything my grandfather does is for my grandmother and all of his family. And they get joy out of that.
They're committed to each other, they're committed to marriage, they're committed to the gospel. And I can't even comprehend them ever giving up on each other.
Sister Neil A. Marriott speaks to young people all over the world. Up next, hear the question about marriage she's often asked.
I think singles and young people today, it's like a mystery.
And later, hear Elder D. Todd Christofferson and his wife share their love story.
You know, still too shy. I should have said, "Who are you?" and introduced myself.
Our first date was to a football game.
It was a hot October afternoon, and we get there and we sit down, and he reaches over and unzips this package and pulls out a blanket and wraps it around my shoulders and his. And we're sitting there sweltering with the blanket around both shoulders, and I thought, why are we sweating with the blanket around our shoulders?
Let's go back to what were you thinking with the blanket? Let's get your side of that.
Hey, I wanted to be close to her.
That was the beginning of a love story that has spanned more than 4 decades. Neil Marriott currently serves in the Young Women's General Presidency. She and her husband David have raised 11 children, so they have a pretty good idea of what the dating world is like. I sat down with them to find out their formula for a successful marriage.
Avid gardeners, it's easy for the Marriotts to draw parallels between weeding and marriage.
Marriage really is kind of like a garden, though. You do have to prepare. The soil has to be ready to let a seed grow.
Prune out the bad, take out the extra so the other has room to grow.
The Marriotts say 44 years of marriage has helped them both grow and experience more joy.
Marriage is joyful. Our children need to know that.
And there is some sacrifice in it, but the what you get back, the payoff is so great. You have a companion, you have a teammate, you have someone to share with, you have safety. I mean, we are each other's safe harbor.
During your first year of marriage, what was the biggest surprise for you?
Both of us came from different backgrounds, and we assumed that the other person would think just like we did. That wasn't true.
And I would be sitting up in bed, all bright-eyed, ready to talk. And he was exhausted. And so he would fall asleep immediately, and I'd think, well, he's not interested. You know, how can we communicate if he's not going to talk to me? But it was 2. So we had to come to an understanding that wasn't a good time. But he still wanted to talk, but not then.
You speak to a lot of youth groups and young women. What advice do you give them on dating?
Well, the first thing I think I go to, there are different situations, but is to look again at the Strength of Youth pamphlet for the Strength of Youth. There, it contains the standards that will make them happy. I get the question often when I'm traveling, you know, how did you and your husband meet? And I think singles and young people today, it's like a mystery. I want to say to them, there are people all around you that are wonderful people.
You've raised 11 children. What advice do you give them on marriage and relationships and dating?
I think more than telling them, we lived it. We were happy being married. I mean, they could see that.
For my sons, they're looking on Facebook to see how someone looks. And we always said, it's not just looks.
At all. No.
You've got to see how they react to different situations. And don't look for perfection, because you're not going to get it. We tell our kids, you've got to make the commitment, and then you will have the kind of results with that individual that you really want. It takes risking your feelings and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And that's one of the things that I think millennials are afraid of.
The Marriotts have 4 children who are single, so they understand some of the dating frustrations.
Unmarried ones come to us and say, oh, you know, this is hopeless, or nothing works. Well, it's not over. Not over at all. You know, you keep on working. There's plenty out there, and there's always that opportunity coming. I mean, hope is part of this. Everyone has their own time schedule, and we can't say that someone is stopped in their progress because they're not married. It's just that marriage is the Lord's way, and that's what we need to work toward.
Family. It's the sanctuary of love and life. Coming up next, we'll take you to the World Meeting of Families.
I was with somebody else, he was with another fellow, and we just happened to run into each other and had a very brief interchange. And I walked off with this girl and said, oh, that's just the kind of guy I'd like to date, and I don't have an idea who he is, and I'll never see him again.
I was taken by her, just looking at her, and I thought, that's a good-looking girl. I'd like to date her, I'd like to meet her. But I was, still too shy. I should have said, who are you, and introduced myself, but I remember the face, and so this is in the old days when we had yearbooks, and I waited till the next semester, the fall semester, and looked her up in the yearbook, found out what her name was, and then I arranged through another person to have a blind date. Blind for her, not quite as blind for me.
Here's the irony. The irony was that he described him to me, and I thought he was somebody else. So when I met him for the blind date, and this was months later, this was the next semester, I didn't remember that he was the one I'd seen.
You see what a great impression
until later.
I remembered her, she didn't remember me.
And then when I realized that he was the same one that I'd seen at the football stadium, I thought, oh, well, that makes sense, because I liked him again, all over again.
So it was a true test, wasn't it? Yeah, an experiment that was replicated, so it worked.
Elder D. Todd Christofferson and his wife Catherine had been married 47 years and have 5 children. They attended the World Meeting of Families in Philadelphia, where Elder Christofferson had the opportunity to speak on the importance of dedicated family time.
I hope they take away from that presentation some appreciation and understanding of our sense of marriage and family and how significant that is, how critical and foundational it is to everything.
Family is not just one way among many to invite God into the world. It is the first way.
I hope also they'll take away some good ideas, things that they can use in their own families individually, but also maybe encourage among other families to strengthen them. Practical things that we talk about, our prayers together as families, our home evenings at least once each week.
I think the Mormons are known for their strong family life, and so it was great to hear a couple of tips and some of the practices they use, and there are things that we could use in our family as my wife and I are trying to raise our children.
We'll never stop preaching the ideal. That's what we all strive for. We recognize that it doesn't always occur, And so we do the best we can, and I think the Lord is pleased with that. He's pleased with our efforts as well as our successes, and He blesses both. I hope also they'll take away a sense of our strong support for their efforts.
My task this afternoon is to reflect with you on the family, a home for the wounded heart.
As well as what we might bring to the table.
I don't think anybody does it better than the Mormon community in the West.
There's so much in common, and this emphasizes that basically the family is one of the most important things we have in common that we can talk about.
We have to join together across those religious boundaries in order to support the family in all its diversity.
God sent him amid a family, in a family.
They're not alone pursuing it, but together we can really make a difference, not just talk about it, but really have some things happen as a consequence. And when you see the variety of people and the other religions besides the Catholics and ourselves that are part of this, it gives me hope that really things can change for the better.
20 years ago, President Gordon B. Hinckley called upon all citizens to strengthen the family. See how the Proclamation on the Family has inspired people to take action coming up.
The best part of being married for me is waking up in the morning, turning over and seeing my beautiful wife beside me, and she's still as beautiful as the first day I married her.
Welcome back. On September 23, 1995, President Gordon B. Hinckley read a proclamation ahead of its time. The Family, a proclamation to the world, outlined LDS beliefs on family and marriage. And 20 years later, those doctrines are under attack.
We, the First Presidency and the Council of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
When Susan Roy Lance heard the proclamation read for the first time,
solemnly proclaim that marriage between a man and a woman is ordained of God.
She immediately recognized it as a call to action.
I was totally excited because it was dealing with the issues we had been dealing on the international level.
A savvy lobbyist.
When we went to Rome, we had a special meeting with the Pope.
Roy Lance had been working the halls of the United Nations in defense of traditional marriage and family.
It was the first time the proclamation was printed, was in this book.
And received permission from the First Presidency to include the proclamation in a book she was writing even before it appeared in the Ensign.
It guided a lot of people to become involved in what mattered. Husband and wife have a solemn responsibility to love and care for each other.
The proclamation has galvanized movements by Latter-day Saints all over the world to champion the family.
We're heading into the Liberia Republic mission.
At the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women earlier this year, several groups of LDS women defended motherhood.
I consider myself a maternal feminist, so that means that I'm just expanding my sphere of influence, starting from myself to my home, to my community, and then reaching the world.
The proclamation has also inspired people of other faiths. During April conference, Elder Perry recalled hearing excerpts of the proclamation read at the Vatican's colloquium on family and marriage.
A Muslim scholar from Iran who quoted 2 paragraphs verbatim of our very own proclamation on the family.
20 years ago, most people didn't realize how quickly views on marriage were changing.
I have to say that when it first came out, I just kind of checked it off. That's right, sure, that's good, and put it aside.
Now the proclamation is recognized as a battle cry.
Now I'm so grateful for those clear, prophetic words of what we're taught.
We call upon responsible citizens and officers of government everywhere to promote those measures designed to maintain and strengthen the family as the fundamental unit of society.
No doubt, strong marriages create strong families and societies. I'm Deanie Wimmer. Thanks for joining us as we explore love, marriage, and why committing to that traditional vow still matters in modern times.